Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Becoming Secure. I'm your host, Emily, dating and relationship coach, specializing in all things attachment. And I'm really excited for this episode today. So, we are talking about how to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or another way you could think of this is basically, how do I trust again after I've been blindsided in the past? And this episode is for you if you're single and you're wanting to date again and you're finding yourself like feeling very fearful and just not sure, how do I even discern if people are healthy or not? How do I know if that's going to happen again? Or if you're in a relationship already and you're finding yourself struggling to let your guard down. Maybe you keep anticipating that the worst is going to happen and it's difficult to really trust the connection. So, maybe you are someone who's been cheated on in the past, or you just have attachment wounds that have sort of ruptured your ability to trust other people, especially in close connections. And this has just left you feeling guarded and kind of on edge. So, this episode is for you no matter where you are in your dating or relationship journey. And this experience is something that I actually hear from a lot of women. And I've been there myself too. So I went through a series of short-lived relationships, especially in my early 20s, where all of these guys were emotionally unavailable. And I did not know that. I didn't know how to vet for that. And so as soon as I would let my guard down, they would pull away. Like as soon as I felt like I was all in, they were like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm not ready for a relationship. Or, uh-oh, maybe I'm not over my ex. And then, they would run. So after it happened, maybe 3 or 4 times in a row, I became really, really fearful and guarded. So then when I started dating the next guy who didn't run, I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was going to run too, that he was going to basically do what all those other guys had done. And even though I knew that he was different, my nervous system was still just bracing for that impact, bracing for that pain again. And so this really can create a lot of anxiety in dating and in relationships, and it can prevent you from being able to really enjoy your relationship and trust the connection. So I'm going to walk you guys through some of the things that have helped me and that I have essentially the process that I take clients through as well when they come to me struggling with this. So on a high level, we'll start there. When you have a wound around trust or betrayal, that's what we'll call it when you've been blindsided, or maybe there's just an expectation that love or being in relationships means you're going to get hurt again. And this could be subconscious. You might not even be fully aware of it. But if you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you are, um, find yourself exhibiting like jealousies types of behaviors, or looking through the person's phone constantly, all those things you feel like you're on edge, then these can be signs that there are some subconscious beliefs going on, even if you don't consciously think of yourself as someone who has trust issues. Because I never thought of myself as someone who has trust issues. And then I started to recognize these patterns of hypervigilance, where I was actually always trying to figure people out, trying to understand them, trying to make sense of everything so that I could feel safe. So even though I perceived myself as a very trusting person. So, on a high level, when we are working on healing these trust wounds so that you can feel safe and secure and trusting in relationships, it's going to come down to a few pieces. So, when we're thinking of healing some of these attachment wounds, we have the subconscious mind. And so, about 95 to I think it's 97% of your feelings, your actions, your choices are actually motivated by your subconscious mind. And a lot of these are things that you're not even fully aware of. So if you're trying to just consciously shift a behavior or a pattern, that is only about 3% of your operating system. So you really need to do this work with the subconscious mind, which determines a lot of how you're going to operate in relationships. So that's one piece of it. Another piece of this is the nervous system, because the trauma that you've experienced really lives in your body. When you are experiencing a moment of trigger or anxiety or fear, you can feel it where your chest tightens, where you have like a pit in your stomach, or your heartbeat is racing. So these things are, your nervous system saying, I'm not safe or I don't feel safe, even if you are. So there's this perceived danger because of what you've been through. And if you don't work with the nervous system in that way, it will not be able to really differentiate, is this safe, is this not, because it feels similar. So that's another piece of it. And working with the nervous system is going to allow your body to feel safe and secure connections. And the third part of this is learning to trust in your own discernment again. So this is where you learn how to discern red flags, how to discern whether it's your anxiety or your triggers coming up versus the other person actually being the source of a lot of the anxiety or the pushing away or the fear, whatever it may be. Part of this is also trusting yourself to take care of you. So to set boundaries to protect you, to advocate for your feelings, your needs in relationships. And so we're going to talk today a bit about the kind of the first and the last part of this process. So a bit about the subconscious mind, as well as learning how to um, bring your discernment back online. Because when you trust yourself to pick up on red flags, to vet other people correctly, you don't keep scanning for danger. You can know, hey, I've got me. I know that I will pick up on things eventually, and I don't have to be looking for what isn't there. And also, I trust myself to get out of a situation or to handle it if something does happen. So this first piece, kind of going a bit more into the subconscious mind. Okay, when you are learning to trust again, and again, it's subconscious, you may feel very trusting on the surface, but you might not be subconsciously. There is one major belief that needs to shift after a sort of betrayal or feeling blindsided. And so when you have been blindsided, there's often a story, a subconscious one, like, it just happened out of nowhere, or he just left out of nowhere. He became a different person out of nowhere, right? That's part of what feeling blindsided is. Like, you didn't see it coming, right? And so when this is the story, this can leave you feeling, maybe on a subconscious level, like, I can't trust people. I can't trust them to be who they say they are. I can't trust people to not hurt me. I can't trust people to be consistent, or reliable or safe. So these beliefs, or beliefs all kind of around this, form as a result of trauma from relationships or childhood traumas where people are very just unpredictable. You can't read them. Maybe one minute they're happy and calm, and then the next they're angry. There could be other dynamics at play as well, but there's some sort of inconsistency in that person's behavior or those people's behavior. And so when you're a kid and your caregivers are this way, you can't really do anything except try to cater to their unpredictable moods in an attempt to create safety and get your needs met. So this is where, if you grew up this way, hypervigilance is really your survival strategy. You are trying to read everybody, you're trying to tiptoe, you're basically walking on eggshells around them, because if they're not in a good mood, they're not safe to be around. Or there's a feeling like, if I can maybe just monitor my behavior enough, or it like perfect my behavior enough, then maybe I won't set them off. And so there can also be some really perfectionistic tendencies that come from growing up in an environment like this. I know that was me. Because if you're not perfect in your behavior, you take it on as, oh, I set them off, I caused that reaction. And when you're a young vulnerable child, that feels really, really high stakes. Like, your ability to get your needs met is totally dependent on whether they're reacting or not. And so then we internalize that of, oh, my safety is based on whether I'm perfect or not. So really high stakes. And just it's a lot to experience as a young child. So when you have grown up around people like this, you can't exactly do a whole lot but try to survive the environment that you're in, right? But the thing is, when you grow up in an environment like this, you also normalize these red flags essentially become normalized to you. But these kinds of people who are very inconsistent, who you do have to walk on eggshells around, they actually have very clear red flags, indicators that they are this way. And when you know how to vet for that and how to look for that specifically, you can avoid people like that, or you can choose not to enter in relationships like that. But obviously, you can't do that as a child, right? And when your caregivers are unpredictable or unsafe in some way, you will start to believe that that is just how people are. It sort of like presents itself into your, it downloads it basically into your subconscious. And it's normalized to your nervous system as well. So that becomes your expectation of people also, that I just can't trust them. They're going to be unpredictable. They're not going to be safe. I'm going to get hurt. And the issue is that that becomes our like broad sweeping belief about people on a subconscious level. But it's really actually specific types of people who are this way, not all people. But think about it, your family unit or, whoever you grew up with, that is your experience of the world that you are experiencing most often. And so if the environment is very chaotic, people are unpredictable, you're going to project that onto like the world in general. Oh, this must be how people are. This must be how the world is, right? But that's not actually the case, right? It's just that's all you've ever known. And so when you're an adult, you want to learn to discern the red flags of people like this and choose not to go into relationships with people like that, which you couldn't do as a child. You didn't have that freedom, right? So, one practice that I actually have clients do in the Art of Secure Dating, which is open for enrollment now, we've got early bird pricing. It's a great program for singles and learning how to vet for emotionally available people and spot red flags. So, one thing that we actually have clients do when they go through this program is look at the red flags that your parents have or your caregivers have. So we go through a bunch of red flags that are really important to vet for, and then have you identify what are the ones that my parents had, because those are the ones that you're most likely to miss because they feel normal to you. They've been normalized to you. So, for me, I did have parents who their moods were pretty unpredictable, pretty inconsistent. And so I've definitely dated people like that. And I didn't realize that that wasn't something that was safe or emotionally safe, that I didn't realize that it wasn't healthy. I didn't realize that that wasn't normal and that I could choose to date people who weren't like that. I just thought that was how people were, right? So we're all going to have blind spots like that because of our attachment wounds, because of what's been normalized to you from a young age, to your nervous system, your subconscious mind. You're going to miss those things, right? And so when you have partners who do exhibit some of these behaviors and then they do pull away or they break trust or they're neglectful and you just feel blindsided by their behavior, the reason this is happening, and can be kind of a tough pill to swallow, but the reason that you experienced that in a blindsiding sort of way is actually because you missed red flags. Or perhaps you also attached really quickly to that person before you gave yourself adequate time to vet and really see what the red flags were. Like if you've only dated them a month and you're letting yourself really fall for them emotionally very quickly, you can't know who someone is after a month. You do need more time to see what that person is like. And so this can be challenging to, go through this really hard experience and be like, oh my gosh, is it like my fault because I missed the red flags? And it's not your fault. It's not your fault that that person did what they did, whether it was, really hurtful, or sometimes there are really awful things that people do, in relationships. And when you experience betrayal, that could be so many different things like infidelity, addictions, all kinds of things. And so it's absolutely not your fault that a person did that. And it's not your fault that you didn't recognize the red flags either. You were simply operating out of your template for love and relationships based on what you were given from a young age. But it's also really good news because this presents you with an opportunity. You can actually heal this template and you can learn how to vet for the red flags that you missed that led to that experience of being blindsided. And so you're not stuck. There's actually so much opportunity for healing and for growth in this area so that you can eventually feel like you can trust other people and let your walls down and feel safe and secure connection. So I would encourage you to think back through some of the experiences that you have been through in relationships where you felt blindsided, or maybe there's a big one that just happened and that's why you're watching this, or you are in a really good relationship right now, but you're still waiting for those same things to happen again. So think back on some of the experiences that have really impacted you and start looking for red or yellow flags that you have overlooked or missed that could maybe clue you in. And oftentimes when I talk to clients about this, they sort of do have an idea where it was something felt a little funny, or oh yeah, like this, kind of like they noticed it. They maybe just didn't fully recognize, oh, that actually was a big deal. I didn't think it was. I was talking to a friend not too long ago about her dating experiences, and she'd gone on a few dates with a guy. And she's talking about him, and she's like, "Yeah, I think I may go on another date with him. I do like a lot of things about him, but I think he's kind of emotionally unavailable." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Okay, pause, back up. What? Tell me that again. And she just didn't really recognize that that's a big deal, that is a non-starter if she's already, 3 dates in, starting to recognize signs of emotional unavailability, like he really couldn't go deep. He very much lacked a lot of self-awareness. So she was already picking up on those things. And it's like, okay, if she had continued to date him, and, thank goodness after that point, after that conversation, she was like, okay, yeah, maybe I should end this. But if she had continued to date him, that could have led to her feeling really unfulfilled in the relationship and there being a lot of emotional neglect just because he hadn't met himself at that level, at that depth yet. Or he could have been the type to pull away a few months in because he realized he couldn't meet her emotional needs and, really wasn't available emotionally for the kind of relationship that she wanted. So, again, going back to, I would encourage you to reflect on some of these previous experiences and ask yourself, where were some of the red flags? Where were some of the yellow flags? Some of the things that just didn't sit right? And see if you can start to piece together, oh yeah, maybe these were some things that I should have really paid more attention to or taken more seriously, but I didn't maybe fully realize the extent of that. So the goal of this is not to like guilt yourself or shame yourself, but just to sort of rebuild some trust of, you know what, maybe I did actually see some of those things. I just didn't fully understand the weight of them. And I've been there too. And if you're thinking back on some of these experiences and you're really kind of stumped, like you're not coming up with anything, you still just feel like, oh, it was a total blindsiding, I would really encourage you to check out either The Art of Secure Dating for singles, which is again now open for enrollment with early bird pricing, or my one-on-one program, Secure in Love, if you can't see these signs, because it's not that they're not there. It's that they've probably been so normalized to you that you just don't recognize them. So, for example, I was messaging with a woman one time about her avoidant boyfriend, and I think they'd been dating for 2 or 3 years at that point, and he ghosted her out of nowhere, right? Air quotes. And I know I was asking her more questions about it, and she was just so adamant that there were no red flags and that sometimes you just can't know that someone's going to do that until it happens. And there's a little bit of a truth to that. Like, you can't fully predict someone's behaviors. However, there are really clear indicators that someone is the type to ghost, to pull away, to just not communicate. And so, as I asked her more questions, it turned out that she knew he was emotionally unavailable, and they had been in therapy together for years over this issue. So, their entire relationship dynamic was really built around him not being able to meet her needs and her trying so hard to change him rather than recognizing we are not compatible. This is a super important need for me to have met by a partner. And so I actually just need to break up with this person and go find someone who is emotionally available because that's important to me. Instead, she was trying to change him. So that whole dynamic is a red flag in and of itself. That's a red flag in her that she's trying to change someone rather than accepting them for who they are and recognizing that this person is not my person because there are important things that I need in a relationship that he cannot provide for me. And so another part of this is a dismissive avoidant, which it sounded like that was what he was, who already has core wounds that say they're incapable or incapable of change. If they're with a partner who is constantly trying to change them, that is very triggering for them and overwhelming for them, especially if they don't have that desire in them to grow, to work on themselves, if they don't have that desire already to be able to make a change. So the red flags are there. Even if you can't see them, you may just need help because you have your own blind spots, like we all do. So, the Art of Secure Dating is a great program for you if you're single and you want to learn how to vet for emotionally healthy, emotionally available men who are ready for commitment. And you'll learn how to become more secure in the dating process in yourself to stop attracting unavailable people and to spot red flags so you don't get blindsided. And if you want to hear more about that, you can also listen to the episode with Chelsea, which was, I think, 2 episodes ago, where she shares about her experience. She's dating a really great, emotionally available guy. So loved interviewing her. So go check that episode out if you want to hear from someone firsthand who's been through that program. And if you are in a relationship, secure in love would be a really great fit for you. So if you're dating someone who he is kind, consistent, and emotionally available, but you feel yourself sort of sabotaging things or waiting for the other shoe to drop because your nervous system is just still on high alert from the trauma that you've experienced in the past, whether previous relationships or your caregivers. And you want to feel secure in yourself, to let your walls down, and to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. That would be a really good program for you. So you can find all the details for both of these programs via the link in the show notes. And you can also apply via those links. And if you have any questions about any of the programs, you can always reach out to me on Instagram. It's Emily A. Dini, Dini. And I'm happy to chat with you. Also, my TikTok, I'm pretty sure, got hacked a couple weeks ago. I can't log into it. And it looks like all the info has changed. So I think it was Emily Dini on there. And so don't message me on there if you have any questions because I can't access that account at this point. So just find me on Instagram. And I'm happy to chat with you about whether it's a fit to work together or not. And if this was helpful, please send this to someone, to a girlfriend who you think would benefit from it. Leave a review, leave a comment. And I am just wishing you all the best, and I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, good luck on your journey towards becoming more secure. Bye.